Welcome to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. And joined by Honorable Council Members Weezar and Englander. Got several items on today's agenda. And, well, they're both honorable, right? It's good to be back. We had a recess of sorts. We have a new pope. A lot of things happen when you go on a break. Yeah, there was white smoke. Okay, don't go there. Let it go. Maybe I shouldn't have entered that. I should have opened that door. But, all right. Welcome to committee. It's Tuesday, March 19th. We do have several items in today's agenda, some of which we can move on consent. One that we will continue 1 week, and that's item number 6. We will continue 1 week to March 26th. So there are folks here for item 6. I don't know if you want to stay since you're here to speak on this item, or there's one card, Mr. Gaines. So I'm sure you'll be back, right? So, okay. Colleagues, on consent, we do have items 2, 3, 4, and 5 we can move at your discretion, but we also have cards on item number 2. So it is consent. If we're going to move in that direction, I would say that Tom Stimnock would be ahead of the game. So, okay, Tom has been here a while. He understands what that means. So thank you, sir. You don't have to speak. Oh, okay. Yeah, Mitch is being very friendly. So we can move on those items. We have a second? Okay, and that'll be the action of this committee. So those items 2, 3, 4, and 5. 6 has been continued. Special report from the director.
Good afternoon, Mike LeGrand for the record. A few things I'd like to update you on. We had a great public hearing and approval of the San Pedro Community Plan that was adopted by the full City Planning Commission. We'll be making this way onto the City Council in the next few months. We're very happy to have worked with the community groups and the Council office on a very robust plan to help guide future development in San Pedro, as well as preserve the character of their rich neighborhoods and cultural assets they have in that area. And we're very excited to move that plan forward with unanimous adoption by the City Planning Commission. In addition, last week, the Kasdan-Sepulveda project was approved by the City Planning Commission, which is a large mixed-use project on the west side of Los Angeles, and that'll be making its way through the City Council process in the next coming months. And we're very excited to see that project move along with the approval of the Planning Commission, as well as a number of enhancements that the Planning Commission incorporated into that project. But it truly is a nice opportunity for a mixed-use project right on top of a transit station. I have some great news to announce. The city attorney has prevailed in a lawsuit against the city and the planning department for the community plan implementation overlay ordinance that was adopted a number of years ago by the city council. And I just received word that our city attorneys have done an excellent job as usual defending the city and the department and moving the city forward to make sure that we protect the neighborhoods and have good zoning practices and policies in place. And they prevailed against a lawsuit on that. So I'd like to thank Terry Kaufman and her team, as well as Mary Decker, Bill Carter, Jane Usher, and the whole group under Carmen Tutanich for all their work on that lawsuit. That concludes my report. I'm available for any questions, and I'll be here throughout the remainder of your hearing.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. And I continue to thank the staff for their diligence in getting our work done in all the different divisions within the department. So thank you, sir. So, Roberto, where does that take us?
It takes us back to item 1, Councilman, which is a report from the mayor and the planning commission relative to a general plan amendment and a proposed ordinance for the Jordan Downs specific plan.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Craig Weber, City Planning staff. At a plum meeting last month, you heard an overview of the proposed Jordan Downs specific plan. And you also heard from a number of speakers, stakeholders in the community, vocalizing their support for the proposed redevelopment of that area. At that meeting, questions came up as to the flexibility of the specific plan with relation to what can be built on the various development sites, in particular with reference to community facilities and parks. And so the Department of City Planning was asked to explore options to embed greater flexibility into the specific plan in regard to development sites. So at this time, the Department of City Planning has submitted what we're referring to as Attachment C to the City Clerk, which recommends various changes to the language in the specific plan. These changes are really clarification and are technical in nature, but there is no proposal at this point to move around development sites within the specific plan. So what we are requesting is that the plan be adopted as is with the changes recommended in Attachment C.
Okay. All right. We do have one speaker card on this.
Very briefly, council members, good afternoon. My name is Allison Becker. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Director for Councilmember Buscaino. Just wanted to take a minute to really thank the Planning Department staff who worked very diligently with our office, the Mayor's office, the Master Developer, and HACLA, the property owner, to kind of translate the technical nature of the specific plan into language that our master developer and property owner could understand. We look forward to the long haul in front of us as we work to transform this property into a thriving mixed-income community, and would ask at this time that the committee move the Planning Commission report along with Attachment C that was provided by the Planning Department.
Ms. Becker, I think given the amount of energy that was put into this in our last meeting, my assumptions are, and just for the record, that there was that dialogue between the mayor's office, the housing authority, your office, the investors, the folks who were part of the decision making as they went through this process. So my assumptions are that everyone got on the same page.
So for the record, the large group that was described, the stakeholders that were described, met on several occasions. Representatives of the mayor's office, the council office, the planning department, the city attorney, HACLA, and the master development team to essentially kind of vet all of the issues that had been raised and to strategize about how they could be handled as the project moved forward. And there was general consensus around the technical changes that are being fielded by the planning department, and there is an understanding that the housing authority and the master developer will continue to work with the city of Los Angeles in fine-tuning the site planning as the development unfolds. We recognize that this is a 20-year plan, and so certainly we anticipate that there will be changes that happen over time.
Great. Well, thank you for your diligence and your, I'll put this, intestinal fortitude. So, thank you. Colleagues, any questions? No? All right. Seeing no other cards on this item, do we have a second on this? Okay, we have a second. And that'll be the committee's action for this item. And let me read into the record what is being acted on. That we would request the city attorney to prepare the ordinance and approve January 30th, 2013 Planning Commission recommendations, including certification of the environmental impact report and the statement of overriding considerations, and the proposed mitigation monitoring program, as indicated by Representative of the District.
And also adoption of Attachment C, Councilman.
Attachment C. You got it. Okay, that takes care of item number 1. Roberto, next item?
The next item, council members, is there's 3 appeals that have been filed relative to a proposed Target store in CD 13.
Okay, this is item 7.
Yes, Council.
Let's have the staff report on this.
Good afternoon. My name is Blake Lamb. I'm with the Planning Department. I'm going to pass out your recommendation report on this project back from November and explain sort of the progress of why you're seeing this case again. So again, Blake Lamb with Planning. Before you today are 3 appeals of the decision by the Central Los Angeles Area Planning Commission, which voted to approve a proposed Target store with ancillary retail uses to be located at the intersection of Sunset and Western Avenue in East Hollywood. The project would be approximately 194,749 square feet. And this case was before you back in November, on November 13th of 2012. However, due to some legal concerns regarding the Brown Act and the way that this item was noticed in the agenda, this case is before you again today. I want to just walk you through very briefly the 3 appeals that were filed for this case, and also walk you through your previous recommendation and give you the Planning Department's recommendation for a few corrections to that recommendation. So again, on November 13th, 2012, you did hear this case. You took public testimony regarding the 3 appeals. And again, I'm passing around your previous recommendation. At this meeting, you certified the EIR, adopted the required findings, granted in part and denied in part the 3 appeals. 1 appeal was filed by the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. This appeal contended that the Central Area Planning Commission failed to meet superstore findings pursuant to LAMC Code Section 1224 U14D. This appeal was granted in part. This committee requested that the project adhere to Section 1224 U14D, which is again part of the municipal code, so that if a superstore does become proposed as part of the project, the applicants will need to comply with all code requirements of the LAMC. A second appeal was filed by Doug Haynes on behalf of La Mirada and Robert Blue for Citizens Coalition of LA. This appeal contended that inadequate findings were made, there were deficiencies in the staff report findings and EIR, and that therefore the Central Area Planning Commission was unable to make an informed decision, and this committee denied that appeal. The third appeal was filed by Target, the applicant, regarding signage conditions that they wish to have modified. This appeal was granted by this body. A condition was added in the recommendation report to the approval that the applicant was to work with the Planning Department, Urban Design Studio to review proposed signage and approval of a final signage plan. So I'm going to just if you can bear with me, I'm going to read through the recommendation report. I also want to reiterate that per section 11.5.7 F7 of the LAMC, City Council may reverse or modify any part of the decision of the Area Planning Commission only by 2/3 of a vote of the whole council, and the decision that's made has to contain findings of fact as to how the specific plan exception to the specific plan either complies or fails to comply with this code section. So I'm going to again walk through the recommendations with a few corrections that planning would like to see made to them, and this is based on your report. So the recommendations that we have is that the Environmental Impact Report, ENV 2008-1421-EIR, is certified that it has been completed in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, state guidelines, city guidelines, and that the City Council has reviewed the information contained therein and considered it along with other factors related to this project, that this determination reflects the independent judgment of the City of Los Angeles, and that the documents constituting the record of proceedings in this matter are located in Council File 12-1604 in the custody of the City Clerk and in the files of the Department of City Planning in the custody of the Environmental Review Section, as well as adopt the Environmental Impact Report. Adopt the findings that were made pursuant to and in accordance with Section 21081 of the Public Resources Code and a statement of overriding considerations prepared by the City Planning Department, and adopt the statement of overriding considerations for the EIR. Adopt the findings pursuant to and in accordance with Section 21081.6 of the California State Public Resources Code and Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program as the findings of Council, and adopt the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. Adopt the findings of this committee, including the environmental findings as the findings of Council. And then here's where we're going to make a few small corrections. Resolve to grant in part, deny in part the appeals filed by Doug Haynes on behalf of the La Mirada Avenue Neighborhood Association of Hollywood, Robert Blue of the Citizens Coalition Los Angeles, Iha Nguyen on behalf of the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, and R.J. Comer on behalf of Target Corporation from part of and the entire determination of the Central Los Angeles Area Planning Commission, which has the effect of approving a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption in the C2 zone, a specific plan project permit compliance with the Vermont Western Transit-Oriented District Specific Plan Station Neighborhood Area Plan, a site plan review for a project which results in an increase of 50,000 gross square feet or more of non-residential floor area and a net increase of over 1,000 average daily trips, as well as 8 specific plan exceptions from the Vermont Western Specific Plan. And I'm just going to read to you those 8 exceptions, which is the Vermont Western Specific Plan Ordinance 174-749. Exception from Section 6N to request relief from the requirement for projects containing 40,000 square feet or more of retail commercial floor area to submit a program for retail use designed to provide free delivery of purchases made at the site by residents living within this specific plan area. From Section 9B1 to allow a commercial-only project a maximum building height of 74 feet and 4 inches above grade in lieu of the maximum permitted building height of 35 feet. From Section 9E3 to allow a commercial project to exceed the maximum number of off-street parking spaces allowed for a total of 458 parking spaces in lieu of the maximum 390 parking spaces allowed. And then 5 exceptions from the specific plan, Section 9I, and Section V of the Development Standards and Design Guidelines as follows. Building design stepbacks to allow the entrance canopy and balconies, which are to be located within 15 feet of the property line along Sunset Boulevard, to exceed the maximum permitted height of 30 feet. To seek relief from the requirement that the second floors along Sunset Boulevard and Western Avenue be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the first floor frontage. Transparent building elements to permit transparent building elements such as windows and doors to occupy approximately 24% of the ground floor facade along St. Andrew's Place in lieu of the minimum 15% building transparency otherwise required. Roof lines to be exempted from the requirement that all roof lines in excess of 40 feet must be broken up through the use of gables, dormers, cutouts, or other means. And then hours of operation, approved an exception to seek relief from the allowable hours of operation between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday to allow store deliveries between the hours of instead 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. Monday through Sunday. And that's everything. Sorry for the long-winded explanation of the recommendation. Finally, 3 more recommendations. Instruct the City Planning Department's Urban Design Studio to meet with the applicant prior to the issuance of building permit, to review the proposed signage, and to approve a final signage plan. Also, a correction at the November 13th Plum meeting, it was instructed that the project needs to comply with Section 1224 U14D, which is our LAMC Superstore requirement. That was an instruction that needs to be added as part of the recommendation. And then finally, advise the applicant that pursuant to State Fish and Game Code Section 711.4, a fish and game fee and or certificate of fee exemption is now required to be submitted to the county clerk prior to or concurrent with the environmental notice of determination filing. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. And it is important, and we shouldn't apologize. We need to be thorough. We need to be specific, especially when we are in a process where the detail does make a big difference. So I appreciate the thoroughness of your report.
Sure, and I know the city attorney had one more item to add about the conditional use permit.
Just that, Terry Kaufman, Messiah City Attorney's Office, just that your findings related to that are error of use findings.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilman Glinder?
Yeah, and I read the brief on that as well and all the conditions, so I do appreciate you reading the record. And I question on the hours of operation, I didn't catch it. I know you went over it, but is there anything expanded for holidays as well? Do they have holiday hours that are varied?
That's a good question. No, holiday hours were not addressed in the staff report, so holiday hours would be the same as what was approved by the Central Area Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you'll be around if there are any questions,
Yes,
correct?
thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to call up the appellants that are involved in this case. As is our process indicates, we do hear from the appellants first. So I'd like to call up Doug Haynes, named appellant on this case.
About how much time will I have?
Just try to make your statement as concise as possible.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Doug Haynes. I'm here representing the La Mirada Avenue Neighborhood Association, and CCLA will be represented by David Bell. Just a couple things to start. One is, as was stated by Blake, this is back before you because of the Brown Act violation, but the project has proceeded as if that Brown Act violation was never pointed out, as if we here today are not reconsidering the project. They've moved forward. Building safety has been issuing permits. Planning has not revoked clearances. City attorney was made aware of this in letters that were submitted to their office and also real parties representative, but instead nothing was stopped. So Terry Frank, who is one of the authors of the updated Brown Act laws, this was his comment regarding what's been going on. He said, having agreed to reset the hearings on the matter in response to La Mirada's challenge, the planning committee is stopped from proceeding with the project. There is no point in a rehearing if the original approval was not defective for want of compliance with the Brown Act. Rehearing must mean substantive reconsideration, not a pro forma ritual that cannot possibly cure or correct anything by giving the public an adequate chance to react to and conceivably influence the decision of which they were never given adequate notice. If you look in what I've submitted to you today, there are a number of photos showing how work has progressed at the site. There are also permits that we got off the Building and Safety website illustrating how, as recently as March 5th, partial clearances were granted for complete grading of the site for a 3-story project. So the city has proceeded with approving this project even though we're here today. And I don't understand why. Essentially, it's as if our letter on the Brown Act violation was never heard. The Brown Act says that an action taken by a legislative body of a local agency in violation of its various sections is null and void under this section, but it can be cured and corrected by stopping that action challenged. It's never been stopped. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing is, essentially, why are we appealing this? This has gone through a multi-year process, and it comes down to basically what is the point of having zoning laws if they're not obeyed? Target came in almost 5.5 years ago with a 1-story co-compliant store. They stated that at the last hearing. We never saw that project. The Hollywood Studios Neighborhood Council, which has jurisdiction over this site, has opposed this project from the beginning. So has the Design Review Committee, Hollywood Design Review Committee for CD13, because we've never been presented with any other project. There's nothing that's been shown to us that was what the original proposal. This could have been built years ago and embraced by the community. And I want to point out on Mr. Reyes, your own specific plan, the Cornfields Arroyo Seca specific plan, the LA Times says that it brings that rarest of commodities to the Los Angeles land use process, which is certainty. There is importantly certainty for the neighbors who already have discussed and generally approved the type of projects that will be coming to town, how dense, how much, and how high. So our specific plan says 35 feet for commercial-only projects. This project is essentially the same height, length, and massing as the arc-like parking structure, which is totally out of scale with what is allowed in our specific plan. And that's what this is all about, conforming to the specific plan that we as a community came up with in 2001 instead of throwing it out the window. Now, there are a number of other targets that have been recently opened, city targets.
And I need you to start summarizing.
Okay. Well, there's substantial additional concerns that I've expressed in my letter. There's a K through 14, K through 8 school that is opening half a block from this project site. Citizens of the World Charter School right across the street, which will have serious impacts. Whenever there's additional information, you need to have a supplemental EIR, and it has to be recirculated. That's one important aspect of this project that hasn't been considered because it wasn't known at the time. Also, the developer has stated that the economics require that they go up in scale and that they have parking above grade instead of just subterranean, but the economics have changed dramatically. And as one example, the Sunset Gordon project in 2007 stated that their parking for 4 levels of subterranean would be $45,000 per space. CIM took over, and now they're saying it's $13,000 per space. So the economies of scales have reduced dramatically. There's an opportunity for Target to reconsider this. And last but not least, and most important, I spoke to Mitchell Farrell, who is the leading candidate for CD13, and he said flat out that CD13, if he were the council member, would demand that they have below grade parking. And that's what our community wants. We hope that you support our community and think what's best for our future, what's best for our specific plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also have, I don't see a card from Robert Blue. We also have here Lane as one of the appellants. I don't see anyone here filling out. I'm sorry? David Bell, are you speaking on behalf of? Okay, come on up. If you're representing the appellant, come on up.
Good afternoon. Mr. Haynes stated pretty well, I think, most of the issues. Basically, we're back. There was the Brown Act letter that came out, and this hearing is basically being held pursuant to the cure and correct letter, as you know. Despite the fact that they're having these hearings, they are moving forward with the project. They cut down some 100-year-old trees on Sunset Boulevard, which were a part of our challenge, and now that challenge is now moot, of course, because those 100-year-old trees they're gone. Basically, we're here. I mean, I've been here a few times myself now, and talked about the process of how the only way we seem to be able to get a seat at the table for what's going on in our community is to file lawsuits. We've got ongoing litigation in this matter, and it's a ridiculous, expensive way to go about doing it. But you want to sit there and you want to have a seat at the table. I've tried to have a seat at the table. I'm a member of the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council. I'm the president of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. They never contacted the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council. I'm on both Plum committees. The Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council has been against this project from the beginning, but we can't sit down and even have a seat at the table without going ahead and filing a lawsuit. As Mr. Haynes said as well, Word on the street, at least my sources tell me that at least one of the candidates for Council District 13 is opposed to the project as designed. The community is opposed to the project as designed. Now there's going to be a school going up across from the project, and yet it all just seems to march forward no matter what. All we're asking is some input into this project that is going on in the middle of our community, and we can't seem to do it. And I mean, eventually it'll get hashed out in court, I suppose, but it seems like an awfully strange and expensive way to go about planning our community. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Bell? I have a question for you from Councilmember Englander.
It just been stated that one or more of the candidates that are running, not that that's necessarily relevant, but I think it's probably important to look at visions of future. Do they have anything in writing submitted to us?
I don't know. Has Mitch O'Farrell submitted anything in writing?
I'm just curious.
No, not that I'm aware of. Although, and again, I mean, those are my sources that tell
I
me
get
that.
it. I'm not questioning that. I just
No, and I understand. I do think, however, that
to what degree they're maybe opposed or not. Or okay.
Well, I think politically it's a difficult thing to do, as you know. But I think that there is something that's going on here where it's sort of like the outgoing administration.
I know. I just wanted to see if there was something submitted because there's volumes.
As far as we know, no.
Volumes of paperwork. I didn't see a letter from. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, we do have another group as part of the appellants, and that's representing Target. We have two cards here, Dale Goldsmith and Willem Delbeck. Would like to come on up representing, unless there's a Target rep here directly.
Good afternoon, Chair Reyes, Honorable Plum Committee members, Dale Goldsmith, Armbruster Goldsmith, and Delvac on behalf of the applicant Target. The whole Target team is here to answer questions. I'd like to focus my remarks in responding to some of the appellant's suggestions. First, though, this project, you've heard this project before, we respectfully request you do the exact same thing as you did last time, with the modifications suggested by staff, which we fully support. With respect to the trees, there were some trees removed pursuant to a valid building permit, a valid tree removal permit that was approved at a duly noticed hearing before the Board of Public Works. Neither the appellants nor Hollywood Heritage showed up at that hearing, and contrary to the assertion of Hollywood Heritage, the EIR considered whether those trees were historic and concluded that they are not. With respect to the K-8 school, the final EIR includes a health risk assessment that concludes that the project will not have any impacts on any sensitive receptors in the area. It's a very detailed analysis, so contrary to the assertion, there won't be any significant impacts on the school. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
We're prepared to answer any questions rather than take the committee's time now.
In terms of, I do have a question for you. And this is more for the record because I want to make sure we understand how the process evolves in this particular case. But how many public meetings, community meetings were engaged in this process from the inception of the proposal to this point?
I'm not sure if I can count that high, but my best recollection is that it's certainly over 20. There have been numerous hearings. This is the third time, actually, before this Plum Committee. There was a prior proposal. There were hearings before the neighborhood councils, informal meetings with key stakeholders over the 5-year process that Target has been pursuing this project.
So the range of voices from different perspectives and stakeholders, could it be said that they were part of the process as you went through these deliberations?
Without a doubt. We talked to a lot of people, listened to a lot of people, and given that this is almost 200,000 square foot project, although the appellants feel very strongly against it, they're few in number. The community isn't here, it's just the appellants who are before you quite a bit.
For the record, just given the assertions made about process, I want to make sure that we understood the breadth and the length and the depth of how much effort was put into that envisioning, if you will.
It has been a tremendous amount of effort on Target's part. Again, we tried to listen. We couldn't make everybody happy, but the project's evolved quite a bit since the original proposal based on that key stakeholder input.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We do have other speaker cards on this item. We have with us Bill Zaid. Are you here? And then we'll have John Girodo. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, all of you. My name is Bill Zaid. I'm a member of the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council, the Plum Committee, the Outreach Committee. And I've been to a number of these, and we are going over old ground, but the facts remain the same. At every meeting, Target refused to submit another project or make substantial adjustments per community concerns. I understand from their standpoint, they believe they're saving money. There's just one problem. In this process, which eventually evolves into litigation, they are actually spending more money. And at this point, no Target store that I can come across has ever lost money. In fact, the one on La Brea is I think one of the 3 most successful Target stores in the nation. So by accommodating community concerns, they will not be losing money, period. It's not going to happen. The question is, do we make sense of what the community wants? Saying it's a few people is not accurate. It's a lot of people. I'm on the board. I hear it every time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Girodo. Hope I didn't mispronounce your name.
Hello, John Girodo, representing Hollywood Heritage. Hollywood Heritage, on behalf of the Board of Directors, I'm bringing to your attention an issue of removal of a number of date palm trees that once lined Sunset Boulevard at Western and Sunset. Hollywood Heritage believes the palm trees, which were nearly 100 years old, were removed without the proper process befitting their age and significance. These trees are within the former Community Redevelopment District, in contradiction to an agreement with the CRA, which would require that Hollywood Heritage be notified when historic assets are involved. We were not informed of the planned removal of these trees. Although palm trees are not regarded the same protection as certain types of native oaks, because of their association with the film studios, they have significance. And this palm tree aesthetic is recognized the world over as an identifying feature of Sunset Boulevard. Hollywood Heritage was denied review of the removal, and therefore we believe CEQA was violated. We would like to request that date palms be replaced in an appropriate height. They are historic resources, and we would believe they are illegally and unreasonably removed.
Thank you, sir. Nicole Shahanian. Again, I apologize.
Good afternoon, Nicole Shahanian with the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to show the Chamber's strong support for the proposed Target development at Sunset and Western. The project will provide Hollywood with much-needed neighborhood retail space while simultaneously reactivating a blighted block that has become an eyesore in the community. The Target project maximizes development potential of an infill site that's within walking distance to the Metro Red Line station and includes dining, retail, pedestrian improvements, and other amenities for future employees and visitors. We believe the size and scope of the project is appropriate for the neighborhood. Located within the transit-oriented district, the Target project will help to alleviate cross-town traffic, allowing residents to shop in their own neighborhood. The Chamber is particularly pleased with the 250 jobs that are expected to come from this construction. And we definitely want to work to support jobs in our community and think that it's important that we let developments like this go forward, especially in this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ziggy Cruz.
Good afternoon, Council Member. My name is Ziggy Cruz. This project that lies within the HSDNC, that's the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council boundaries. Mr. Blue and I were both part of the founding members of this Neighborhood Council. We actually past board members. For 5 years, through several different boards, neither the developer nor the City Council office has listened to the Neighborhood Council, who has consistently opposed this project. They are not for it, they're against it, despite of what you just heard, because of the attempt by this project to bypass key requirements of the zoning laws and the SNAP ordinance. In fact, you have a community impact statement from the Neighborhood Council opposing it in your file. The Target project was also, Target also ignored the recommendation made by the Council District 13 Design Review Committee, which was made up of local architectural professionals. All this time, Target has ignored the community, and they have refused to change their plans. And today, this committee is putting forward a sham hearing. I guess that's all I had to say on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeremy Jacobs.
Good afternoon, council members. As has been mentioned, here we are again. This is the third time I've spoken in front of the council on this issue. My name is Jeremy Jacobs. I'm the Director of Operations at Sunset Bronson Studios. I'm also here representing Sunset Gower Studios, which are both owned by the same parent company. I think it's actually interesting that the studios have been mentioned a few times in these hearings because I'm here representing the two largest independent film studios, not just in CD13, but in California. We are strongly in favor of this project, and that comes directly from the ownership of the studios, staff, and tenants. And just to let you know that I'm not just a hired gun for the studios, I'm a third-generation Los Angelino. I've lived in CD13 my whole life. I was born at Queen of Angels, and I've lived within a half mile of this exact corner. This is a very positive project for the community. It will increase jobs in the neighborhood. It's already decreasing blight. It will also increase security in the area, which has been an issue on that corner for quite some time. So I've said most of these comments before, but I think they're worth reiterating. Thank you.
Before you leave,
Yes.
the nature of your comments and entities that are listening to you, how long have you been in the process and supporting this project?
The studios, as a combined entity, have been supporting this project since it began, 5 years ago.
But how many employees are in that studio?
Yes. There are, as far as direct employees of the studios between both properties, we're looking at about 500. As far as our tenants, we're looking at about 5,000.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, Aaron Epstein, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Aaron Epstein. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I also am a shareholder in Target Corporation, and I am also a very strong proponent of preserving Hollywood. First of all, I want to thank Councilmember Englander and Councilmember Reyes because they asked very poignant questions which illustrated that they did listen to public comment. And Councilmember Englander, you're relatively new to the council. I hope during your term of office you don't become jaded and that you do continue to listen to us. I don't think there's a single person in this room, no matter what side of the issue they're on, does not want a Target store. We all believe a Target store will improve our community. It's unfortunate that there is disagreement on the structure itself. In the last 2 years, it was necessary for me to write the real estate people in Minneapolis that there was tremendous graffiti on their walls and on the property. John D. Griffith, who was head of real estate for Target, very immediately he corrected the situation and he removed the graffiti. I only hope that there's people here representing Target today, they'll be aware of the fact and that they will take steps whenever the graffiti might, if construction starts, that they will take steps to make sure that the graffiti is removed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if my memory serves me right, and I might be reaching, I think there was some landscaping and design elements that dealt with the type of coverage that would hopefully defer, if not prevent, graffiti along some of the walls that were exposed on the backside, if my memory serves me right. Okay, so that does conclude the public comment. Colleagues, any questions or observations on this one? Please, observation, Councilman Winder.
My quick observation is that we went through a similar case. In fact, it was a Target a few years ago, before I was on the council. And this was a remodel, actually, of a Target, but significantly different. And the community was absolutely opposed to it. It was very controversial, a lot of issues, particularly since the fact that we had a Target less than a mile down the street on the same street. And both are in operation today. And Target actually did a great job after opening the store, and I've got to applaud them for doing a terrific job with the community to ensure that the graffiti, the things you were talking about, that they too were concerned about, and a lot of the things with the landscaping plan that they promised the community, some of those issues that they promised at local neighborhood meeting groups didn't make it into the conditions, but they stuck to the promises anyway, and they did them, and did a great job. We were worried for a while and concerned that they would follow through, and they did. And that's just my experience with them. So I thought I'd share that with you. But certainly there are a lot of other issues on this as well that were brought to our attention. And I just wanted to share that my experience and the community's experience that we've had. In fact, they if you ever get the opportunity and you want to see the best Target in the country, I think, the way it's designed, it's pretty cool. It's on Balboa and Devonshire or San Fernando. And it doesn't even really look like a big box, if you will, or a big store. It's really a unique design, but they did a lot of that working with the community, and hopefully they've done and listened to a lot of the comments from the community's concerns on this as well, and will be answering that in their design and implementation if this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. This is a relatively exhaustive process we've been through, and just reviewing some of the material that came out of the Central Area Planning Commission, the conditions and language that came out of that gave us very direct recommendations on how to move forward. And I'm glad with the recommendations set by the staff today that we were very thorough as to mentioning the various conditions that are being instructed so that it is very clear to the public the nature and the breadth of these conditions and how they will impact the environment and how we have created the context and also the nexus between these changes and the mitigation that goes with it. So it's a very thorough report. I'm glad we were able to drill down to that level of specificity for clarity and minimize confusion or make sure that everyone is informed as to the action of this committee. So I appreciate the thoroughness of that report. Is there anything else you wanted to add, given comments made by the public hearing process?
This is Blake Lamb again with the Planning Department. Just a comment, we heard some concerns about tree removal, and I just wanted to point out that there are mitigation measures that are specifically related to tree removal in the report for the project.
Great. Okay, so that being said, I'd like to move that we support and follow the recommendations as stated by the staff. After reviewing this file and reviewing this case, it's important that we continue moving forward with this process, given the recommendations as stated by the staff. Now, is that sufficient language, Roberto, for direction?
Well, if you like, you could be more specific and simply say grant in part, deny in part, to be consistent with the prior action.
Okay.
And also incorporate the changes that Blake suggested.
So why don't you go ahead and just make the statement to make sure it's clear for the record what we're doing.
So you would basically grant in part, deny in part. You're granting the target appeal. You would incorporate the changes suggested by Blake and adopt the environmental findings and all other findings.
Okay.
And also, sorry, Blake Lamb again with the Planning Department, and also granting in part the appeal by the Lane, Los Angeles Alliance for New Economy by adding the condition regarding the superstore requirements.
Now, before we finish this case, are we sure we have it wrapped up? Okay. Hate to let this go. All right, so that will be the action of this committee. Have a second? All right. Have a second, and that will be the action of this committee. Thank you, Roberto. And Madam Attorney, any other items left?
No, Councilman, just public comment.
Anybody here for public comment? Seeing no one, this meeting is adjourned. Again, thank you all.